Vayekafat lechem v'sa'adu libchem achar ta'avoru ki al ken avartem al avdechem vayomru ken ta'aseh kasher dibarta. While Abraham tells the men he will simply bring them some bread, he goes on to prepare this immense feast and personally waits on them as they eat. The Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Nedarim tells us this is the way the righteous behave. They say little and do much. It is also the way of the righteous to wait on their guests, even if their guests are of a lower social position. It's debated by biblical commentators whether Abraham was aware of his guests' identity while he was serving them. While Abarbanel and Sforno both suggest Abraham thought from the outset that his guests had a celestial or royal nature, we also find a midrash from Sifre, a 4th century commentary on Deuteronomy, asserting that Abraham believed his guests to be Arabian idol worshippers. Based on the latter interpretation, the Chavetz Chaim explains that we have an obligation to treat all our guests as royalty. In the communal sense of outreach, this aspect of Hachnasat Orchim takes on additional significance. If we, as leaders in the conservative movement, strive toward making all our guests and our visitors feel as though their presence is important to us, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, their age, sexual orientation, or years, we significantly raise the odds of our guests becoming regulars, or perhaps even important and distinguished members of the community. After all, as we learned from Abraham, we never know which visitor might turn out to be an angel in disguise. Vayakumu misham ha'anashim, vayashkifu al panei Sedom, va'Avraham holech imam l'shalcham. Finally, after one of the men informs Abraham that Sarah would give birth to a son in the following year, Abraham escorts his guests as they set out towards Sodom. The Chavetz Chaim reiterates that the teaching of Chazal on this passage, just as the obligation of Hachnasat Orchim does not begin simply when guests enter, it does not end when guests depart. Livaya, or accompanying a guest at least a symbolic amount, is an integral aspect of how we are commanded to treat our guests. In this vein, the Babylonian Talmud in Tractate Sota compares the failure to fulfill this aspect of Hachnasat Orchim to bloodshed. Further, in his magnus opus, the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam cites accompanying one's guests as the most important component of Hachnasat Orchim. Among the many lessons we can glean from Abraham's practice of Hachnasat Orchim and the explication of that practice by the Chavetz Chaim, Livaya, or accompanying our guests, is the most crucial for us as a movement. Even if we succeed in reaching out to unaffiliated or marginalized Jews in our community, bringing them in the door, making them feel welcome, comfortable, and honored to the extent that they no longer feel like guests, we still have not fulfilled our obligation to them. We must find ways to accompany them on their journey into communal life and a life of Torah. As concerned, involved conservative Jews, our task in sustaining and invigorating our movement requires a long-term commitment to our guests, to the new intermarried family that has recently moved to town, to the older couple who retired to our area, or the numerous Jews who came through our door during the High Holy Days we never see the rest of the year. We have an obligation to escort them back through our doors as honored guests in a comfortable way. It is only through this ongoing aspect of Hachnasat Orchim that ultimately we can be successful. We have an obligation to continually accompany our guests at their own pace into a life more saturated with Torah. For without an escort, the trip is inevitably fraught with setbacks. If we can commit ourselves to broadening our understanding of Hachnasat Orchim beyond the realms of our home, we can fortify our movement's ability to strengthen itself through a larger membership of Jews who will no longer see themselves as guests, but the ones fulfilling this vitally important mitzvah.